This activity is called What's in a Mixture, and it's a good one because it starts to get your students thinking about the difference between pure substances and mixtures, but then also how do you separate out a mixture? And we're going to create a mixture, and you're going to show this, and they'll probably do it themselves. But then what we want to have happen is we want them to put a plan together of how could they separate out the different parts of the mixture back into substances. So let's take a look at what we need here. We need some sand, which you can get from the hardware store, or if you have a local beach buy, that's fine too. Some salt, just regular table salt, some marbles from a dollar store, some iron filings, which you can order online. Then we've got a spoon if we have to mix. We've got a coffee filter, and that little bar in the center is our small magnet. We've got some water, a paper plate, and a couple beakers, and a hot plate to boil any solution that we create. Okay, let's get at it. Okay, now we're going to make the mixture. I'll add just a little bit of our sand. There we go with that. Now I'll add some salt, and you'll notice that we didn't really put in amounts here. You can kind of just sort of eyeball it and sort of what you have available for each amount. I've got about 5 or 6 marbles here that we'll add in, and then I'll take my iron filings, which again I ordered online, and I'll just add some iron filings in there. And now we have 4 different components to our mixture. And I'll just give it a little bit of a stir. And that can sit on the kids' desks while they put together a plan. And when they've got a plan together how they're going to take these 4 and separate them out, you can approve it and they can go ahead and do that. So let's take a look at how they would do that. Our plan is going to be first to separate out the marbles, then we'll separate out with a magnet the iron filings, and then finally we'll add some water, filter everything, and run that through a coffee filter, and then we'll have a solution in the bottom that we can boil and have our salt left over. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we're going to do. Let's now do it. I'm just using a spoon to remove the marbles. So we would probably call that a mechanical separation. It's just a matter of going through the process of separating them out. And then from there, we have our new mixture minus the marbles. And I'm going to take a magnet and just start to run that through and try to remove as many of the iron filings as I can. There's going to be a part B to this if you like, or a second part of using the magnet. But here you can see we've got a really good number of magnetic filings we've removed. So we're in good shape there. So now we're down to the last bit. How do we remove the salt? And to do that, I'm just going to produce probably best described as a slurry. And what we'll be able to do is run this slurry, which is probably still a few iron filings, still a little bit of sand in there, but also our salt. Now of those 3 things I just mentioned, only one will dissolve in water, and that's salt. And so I'll stir this enough to make sure the salt is dissolved. And then I'll take a larger container or beaker. You could use a yogurt or some kind of plastic container like that. That would work. Now I'm going to take the coffee filter and I'm just going to put that into the container. Here I've got a beaker, but you could even use a plastic container like something that you would get yogurt in. And I'll hold on to the coffee filter kind of with one hand, and then I'll just slowly pour this solution through the coffee filter. And so what we're doing there is we're separating out the dissolved salt from the iron filings and the sand. And that'll take maybe a couple minutes depending on how well you stirred and how fine your sand was. So we'll let that finish going all the way through, and then we'll do the last step of separating out our mixture. Now we're on to our last step, and that's to take our salt and water solution, place it on the hot plate, and let that boil. And in the boiling, we'll have the crystals reappear for the salt, and we should see that in a couple minutes here. So let's get started with that. Okay, now that we've had our beaker of salt water on the hot plate, we're now going to take a look at it. We've evaporated all the liquid out of it and then let it cool down. And now let's come take a look and see what we've got in there. So when I go to grab this, remember I've cooled it down so I can grab it and I take it, we can see that what we have left there is just the salt. So we have now successfully separated out the 4 components of our mixture: the marbles, the iron filings, the sand, and now finally the salt. And so that's separating the mixture.